Welcome to week number 5 of Hawk Talk as we continue to meet the head coaches and administrators at Monmouth University. And my guest this evening, fitting that we get a couple of minutes with the baseball coach, seeing as how we're in baseball season. And it's my pleasure to welcome in Dean Ehehalt to the conversation here tonight. Coach Ehehalt, how are you doing?
Doing great, Eddie. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure, Coach, and I know that you're one of the programs that had started playing and were in the midst of your season when the current situation that we find ourselves in started happening. And before we kind of address anything else, let's first see how you and your family are doing here this evening.
We're all good. Leanne and Kelsey are both teachers. They're staying busy. We're safe. We're healthy. Really concerned about everybody else and all of the significant stuff that's going on out there. But we're doing fine. Thanks for asking.
Coach, it's my pleasure. And if you want to get a question in for Dean Ehehalt, who is in his 27th, will be the 28th season as the Monmouth head coach next year, make sure to submit them in our Facebook Live chat. Those questions get relayed to me, and you will be able to ask a question of the head coach of the Monmouth baseball program. There is already a question coming in, but, Coach, before we get to that question, really what everyone wants to know is how is the program, how are you and your staff kind of keeping tabs now with the semester over with your players?
Well, we're all doing fine. And, we have regular communication with our guys, regular communication. The coaching staff has regular communication, a lot of FaceTime, a lot of Zoom, a lot of, one-on-one stuff, small group meetings. We're doing well. When everything first started, we tried to get everybody into a routine, stay positive, and emphasize the academic part of it. And now once the semester's over, we're getting more into, the training part of it and what to do moving forward.
And I think that's the kind of situation, the conundrum, if you will, that most college coaches find themselves in. It's kind of twofold. It's the uncertainty with what the next steps are, while also trying to make sure that your student athletes are in class, whether that's now summer sessions, which have gone online, or whether it means they're staying up on their workouts. And you find yourself kind of with a whole bunch of coaches in the situation that your season was already underway, your season was cut short. And as we address kind of some of those issues facing the team, if you would enlighten us how you received the news and how the timeline of the end of the season transpired to now lead us into the situation we're in.
Well, ironically, it's funny you mentioned that. Tonight would have been the opening ceremonies for our MAC baseball tournament. And, we would have been at Staten Island tonight at the pre-conference tournament festivities. So, it's ironic we're having this conversation, but, we were about to begin our 5th weekend of the season. We were 4 weeks into our playing season. We had taken some trips out west, down south. And, Thursday, we knew things were kind of shaky going into the day. And we're supposed to go play at the University of Richmond day before the Ivy League made their announcement. We were practicing at 10, ending at noon, going at 2:30 down to Richmond to play. And it's something that sticks out in my mind, and I know the players as well. At 10 o'clock when we started, there was some talk about, the NBA conference tournaments in basketball. And, we knew we were going to be able to go play that weekend. And then at about 10:30, Jared Weiss comes out to the field and talks about some of the things that are going on moving forward. And, I didn't tell the players anything. And then at noon, we're getting ready to break the team huddle and get ready to go play. And Jeff Stapleton comes out and, informs us that spring season has been canceled. And, that's how we received the news. And, we kind of met after that, just like every other team did when they got the same news, and said our goodbyes and got into the next phase of what was important.
A lot of coaches that are dealing with this situation, if you look at the college athletic season, it's kind of broken up into thirds, really. There's the fall season, there's the winter season, and then there's the spring season. So the 2/3 of that were done or almost done. We know basketball was heading into the NCAA tournament with conference tournaments being canceled. Your players didn't get conference play this season, and your seniors, a lot of them didn't get what was going to be their last season. And now the NCAA says to spring coaches, If they want to come back, they can. It's kind of on you. It's kind of on the school. So what was the approach you and your program and the staff took to that situation, which is so different team to team?
Well, they didn't make that announcement immediately. So, that was a little bit unknown. We were hoping it was going to happen. There was a bunch of statements on social media, a bunch of sites talking about, regaining the year, their eligibility being restored to complete a senior season. So that was out there, but it didn't unfold till, slightly after that time. And I know our guys were, excited that was the case. And I feel great that they're going to get another chance to play. Not just our guys, but all the other spring athletes at Monmouth and all the other spring athletes, throughout the country. So, that's exciting. Selfishly, felt bad for the group, because this isn't what they signed up for. And, as coaching staff, we certainly didn't know what to tell them. It was kind of an awkward moment. We wanted everybody to be safe, but we wanted to make sure everybody knew this was a serious matter. Our team's important. You're important. We feel really bad for the seniors. And we had to do that in about 40 minutes. So, as time went on, things got a lot better. And our seniors have been really good. And each guy's unique in his own way. And some guys have made some different direction with what they want to do in the future. So they're able to come back. And that's good to know.
Yeah, there's really nothing that can prepare you for something like that, right? I mean, you've been a Division I baseball coach for 27 seasons. Is there anything that you could have drawn kind of previous experience on to prepare you for any of those conversations?
Not particularly, although, you have a relationship with your players, you care about them, the coaching staff's always talking to players about, impactful moments, things that really you'll remember for the rest of your life. And 9/11, we tell a story about where we were on campus and some of our players. And, we get some reflection with some of the stuff going on with that. I tell the kids about where I was when the United States, a Miracle on Ice, when that occurred. And I think the guys in time, most of them said, hey, we'll never forget this day. And so, they put it in great perspective. And I'm really, really happy about that. And just, it's a testament to them.
If you want to get your question in for Monmouth head baseball coach Dean Ehehalt, please do so by submitting it into our Facebook Live chat. There is a question that's coming in. So, Coach, before we get to this year's team, the season that was cut short, I have a question coming in. And the beauty of these questions is they kind of come from all over the place. So you have to be ready for a little baseball. You have to be ready for maybe some personal questions about some of your inspirations and your heroes. So the question that comes in from a coworker of ours who knows the baseball field like the back of his hand. It comes in Rich Carragher from Levittown checking in. And Rich wants to know, he's getting right into it. What are your thoughts, Coach, on potentially a pitch clock and replay coming to college baseball in the future?
Well, I think it's going to happen. I don't know when it's going to happen, but, the pitch clock is set in motion. And thanks for listening, Rich. Appreciate it. I know you'll have a lot to do with the pitch clock and the replay. So this will be right up your alley. First of all, you need the technical ability to have the replays. And there are a lot of challenging issues with camera angles and things of that nature. So, I know NCAA baseball is still hammering that out for non-televised games. And, it's a challenge nationally for those games. And I do think the pitch clock's going to come to fruition here, if not in 21 and 22. It's actually held on the field now, but there's no in mid-majors. There really is no visible clock. It's held by the umpires.
Another question coming in for Monmouth head baseball coach Dean Ehehalt. But before we get to that question, I want to first take a look, Coach, at the season that was cut short. Started with a couple of wins, and the team hadn't quite gotten into league play. But as you mentioned, this would have been our time out in Staten Island at the conference baseball tournament. Right around this time, you and I would be seated on that concourse. It's always windy, and I'd be asking you questions about your team getting to the conference tournament. You've made it pretty regular habit, a regular season title a couple of years ago, getting to this postseason tournament. And just what were your expectations for your team this season? Did What chances did you think that team had, not only throughout the rest of the season, but at that conference tournament that would have been in New York City?
Well, I liked our team. We started, like I said, we were in our fifth weekend. We had pitched real exceptional up until we stopped playing, and we really had a breakout weekend right before everything stopped down at GW. We played extremely well. Our our defensive our defense was incredible this year. We had a record fielding percentage. So we were just starting to come into our own, and some guys were starting to figure it out offensively, and we were really excited about this season. Our players really embraced each other. Our players were excited about playing. We had high hopes, and our conference is extremely competitive. And with great respect to everybody else, we were really, we were really excited about playing. We were gearing up to have a good season, and I thought our pitching lined up real good to make a nice run in the tournament.
Yeah, I'm obviously one of the people that feels that loss from mainly work. Coach, I'll be honest, I missed talking to you post game, and I missed sitting next to Leo and broadcasting the games that we would have done all spring. While on that topic, have you had any conversations with either any of the alums or even my broadcast partner since all of this has gone down?
We have. We stay in regular communication with all the former players. Some of them more personal than others. I talk to Leo all the time. Leo and I are, we go back since day one at Monmouth for me. So, we kind of think alike, which is a little concerning. But I do talk to Leo all the time. He calls me up when it's raining, asks me about the park, who's pitching today, what way the wind's blowing. So he's a regular in the Ehehalt household. And, we do talk to everybody on a fairly regular basis. I know Coach Colazzo's in regular communication with the guys that he played with during his time here with their family and their wives. So, it continues. If you're close to our program, there's a lot of connection with former players and alumni, and it certainly hasn't really changed much during this time.
The questions are starting to roll in for Monmouth baseball coach Dean Ehehalt, and we will go to those questions now. And, Coach, our next question comes in. Lynn from Jackson wants to know, how often in a regular season, and I mean throughout a regular kind of occurrence, how often do you get to watch baseball during the season? How often do you get to watch the majors if the season was going on? And what are your thoughts on Major League Baseball and their potential resumption of play?
Well, thanks for the question, Lynn. We are traveling a bunch, working a lot, so we do get access to the Major League games, and we watch them when we're able to, and it's always exciting to watch, and we're always drawing comparisons that'll help our players. And as a fan of the game and as somebody that really embraces all professional sports, Major League Baseball is something that we watch all the time when we can. Especially the West Coast games that are on later when we get home a little bit later and you can't fall asleep right away. But I think there's a lot of work being done in all the professional sports, especially with baseball. You see a lot of, models being put forth on ESPN and on social media, on the news. And, they're still trying to work all that stuff out. I know there's a lot of testing issues that have to be put in place before these guys do anything. Everybody, all these guys want to do is play, but at the same time, we have to remember that they have a family, they have children, and their first priority is their family, and they don't want to put their family at risk. And I know that goes into their thought process as well. Hopefully, we get it back soon. It looks like it'll happen sometime.
Yeah, that's the positive that it is trending towards. Sports coming back. NASCAR's running. They're playing soccer in Europe. They've been running horses this whole time for whatever that's worth. Another question that comes in, Coach, and it again stays with the professional aspect of baseball, but not necessarily the major leagues. And Kim in Eatontown wants to know, have you had a chance to catch any of the Korean baseball games that ESPN is broadcasting, and what are your thoughts on that?
Well, Kim, thanks for the call. I've watched a very limited amount of the Korean baseball. I just have watched highlights from time to time. one of the things that we have going on right now is we're in such a routine as a staff and as the group of coaches that there's not a lot of time to watch those games during when they're being aired. So unless it's a replay in the middle of the day, it's very difficult to watch. But I know Coach Epstein is a big advocate of the Korean Baseball League and keeps me posted on what's going on with that as well as our team.
Well, he should have a conversation with Gary then, our producer here on our Hawk Talk series. I know Gary's a big fan of that as well. And I haven't had a chance to catch it just yet, but it's sports, and I'm sure we're all excited for it. There's another question that is coming in, Coach, and now we get kind of a bit more specific with your Monmouth program. And Sean in Jersey City checks in, and Sean wants to get your thoughts and really find out how the Monmouth players are currently staying in shape with this long layoff ahead of them.
Great question, Sean. And just getting back to that Korean baseball, great enthusiasm. I mean, you got to love the enthusiasm and how they play and, the style of play. So that's something that's real intriguing on my end. But getting to Sean's question, staying in shape is a huge issue right now. Guys are home, and we took a survey of what type of equipment they have in their houses to train, and some guys have a chin-up bar, other guys have a full weight set. So we're all over the place with that. The one thing we're trying to emphasize with our guys, and it would be great advice to anybody out there, is just do something. We had Brad Brock spoke to our team. One of our former players is the current New York Met, and he was just talking about, stressing the fact of doing something. And it makes so much sense. You can't feel sorry for yourselves, and you got to stay in shape. You have to do something. We're having a lot of success with trying to create routines for our players, journaling, writing things down, tracking progress, things of that nature. But, Sean, if you follow Major League Baseball, you look at the off season that Major League Baseball players have, and they train in the off season and try to work on something that, they need to be better at. And this is no different during this time with college players. They can figure out something to work on and stay within striking range when the game does return and become better during this time. There's going to be a lot of players that are going to, unfortunately lose their edge because baseball is a game of repetition and seeing live pitching and the pitcher hitter battle. So that's not going to be able to be replicated. But, training and working on a skill right now is really important because you can't really practice unless you're able to sneak out to a field or hit in your basement or do something in your yard.
Those words of advice, too, that come from Monmouth coach Dean Ehehalt kind of mirrors something that was on the Monmouth website recently, and all the head coaches penned letters, and it's up on MonmouthHawks.com right now. And Coach took some of what you just said. It's reminiscent of that letter that you wrote, but in that letter that you wrote, where you reference kind of your team's experience and also what your kind of motto is getting through this, you do talk about a pretty cool experience that you and your team had earlier this year out in California and having a chance to train with U.S. Navy SEALs. So that SEALs experience must have been pretty impactful. It found that way into the letter that you can read on MonmouthHawks.com now from Dean Ehehalt. But that experience must have been one of a kind for you and your program.
It was tremendous. One of the, definitely the neatest thing we've ever done with our players. I've been fortunate to get to Coronado and the SEALs base on 2 occasions, in 2010 and again this year. And, just to clarify, we didn't train with those guys, but we were on their obstacle course. We got a tour of the grounds and just, making a commitment, the everyday grind, the commitment to a team, and just the rigorous training. And not only that, but, great lessons in sacrifice and being selfless and, protecting our freedom. A lot of stuff like that goes unnoticed, and try to make it a total experience for our players and our student athletes. And that was a neat thing we did. And they got to meet some SEALs. Actually, we got a tour from a former SEAL commander who actually put the explosives on the beach in the Middle East when we went to war. So that was his SEAL team.
It's a pretty awesome experience. And again, if you want to read a bit more about the detail that went behind that, in addition to what Coach just said, if you go to monmouthhawks.com right now on the baseball page, you get that letter from Coach Ehalt. There's some great information as well with senior spotlights, and you get to know Coach Collazo, Coach Epstein a little bit more with 5 questions with each of them. The questions continue to roll in. Gregory in Tom's River wants to know, Coach, building on what I asked you earlier about how you felt about this year's program, let's take that one step further now. Your thoughts on the future of Monmouth baseball next year and beyond with the players currently in the program and then with some of the potential recruits that are out there?
Well, I think our future is very strong. We have a really good young class. Our younger grades are very talented right now. And then our incoming guys are extremely talented as well. So we're excited about, the foundation we have in place. We have, like I said earlier, I think our pitching is real stable. We've got some really talented pitchers in the younger grades, and we have an equally talented group coming in, a very good balance, and we're excited about, moving forward. And I like the makeup of our guys. We're able to, take this time and spend a lot of time with our incoming guys and our returners in a different way, and just emphasizing things that will make a big difference moving forward.
And Coach mentioned earlier, and him and I both discussed that NCAA ruling that came down about the players who could have the opportunity to come back next year. And Coach, when you and I were speaking before and getting ready for our Hawk Talk conversation, I know you were letting me know some of those seniors that will be coming back, but I know there are a few guys that will be departing the program. If you follow Monmouth on social media, you know that pitcher Jordan McCrum, who was one of the major award winners, won the Joan Martin Award. He'll be trying his luck now at the next level. But I know that a couple of guys that you're very fond of, the staff is very fond of, will be moving on after now graduating from Monmouth.
Yes. First of all, congratulations to all of those guys who either graduated this spring or graduated previously and were working in the master's program. So, every guy we have is a college graduate that was a senior this year. So we're real happy about that. And they achieved at a very high level. Jordan McCrum, like you said, is going to, I guess he's going to give pro baseball a shot, which is definitely in the cards for him. He's been working hard to rehab from surgery, and I know he'll be successful in that, although the Major League Draft this year will be a little abbreviated. So hopefully he'll have a chance, even though there's only going to be 5 rounds to latch on with a club, and he's been working hard for that. And he was certainly on a lot of teams' radars, prior to the season. So we wish him good luck in that pursuit, and he'll do a great job. He'll definitely play professionally, and certainly deserves it. He'll perform at a very high level. And JP Walsh is, trying to find an academic program right now at the graduate level that will help him move forward in his career endeavors. And JP was a tremendous player for us, and outstanding individual who really was a pleasure to be around every day. One of the coaching staffs, he was like an extension of a coach on the field. Always learning, always prepared, always wanted to break stuff down, always trying to figure out ways to get better. And in 2018, he got inserted into the lineup and made an immediate impact, and we went on a tremendous run right from there. So his contributions are, significant. He's just an outstanding person.
You want to get your question in for Monmouth head coach Dean Ehalt, again, please utilize our Facebook live chat. Question will get relayed over to me. Also want to remind you, if you've missed any of our previous Hawk Talk conversations, you can head to monmouthhawks.com, as well as stay right here on Facebook in the video tab, and you can find any of those conversations that we had prior. And, Coach, if our Hawk Talk was a batting lineup, this is a pretty good spot, because we had President Leahy last Thursday. We have you this evening. We have Dr. McNeil coming up Thursday. I'll tell you, if I was a pitcher, I would not want to face the middle of that order.
No, that's quite a threesome right there for sure. That's a good 3, 4, 5 in anybody's order. And I got sandwiched in between President Leahy and Dr. McNeil, which is an honor to be mentioned with those folks. And I was listening to President Leahy last week speak about his affinity for, baseball when he was a youngster, and that was fun to listen to him. And he sends great messages and tremendous supporter of our athletic program and every team and every student athlete. And then Dr. McNeil, I'm sure, will have a great message to send, as she always does on Thursday.
Yeah, looking forward to that conversation with Dr. McNeil. That's this Thursday at 7 o'clock right here. It'll be our next Hawk Talk episode. And Coach, we've looked kind of back at some of the season that was, and you've mentioned some of the players that will be leaving the program. And now I think there's a few questions coming in, so I'll try to sandwich them into one thought about the future of the program. And you alluded to it, your optimism for Monmouth baseball. But as far as recruiting in this situation we find ourselves in, I can imagine it's normally a challenging feat, but even now, that much more so.
It certainly is. And, everybody is kind of pushed back a year. So everybody got the year back, not just the seniors. So it's creating a lot of roster issues nationally, not just with us. I do believe we're the only sport in NCAA Division I that has a roster limit. There's a roster limit of 35, which will be waived this year to some degree because of the ability for the seniors to come back. But recruiting never stops, and we're trying to get better. There's a lot of quality kids out there. It's certainly a little bit different now, and there are a lot more players transferring because of what has occurred. Patriot League, Ivy League, there are some schools that don't have graduate programs. So a lot of those fifth-year student athletes are now transferring. And then you have the 2021 guys who didn't really get a chance to or play their junior season in high school. Not that you don't feel bad about the seniors, you feel bad about every high school kid. So, recruiting is it's still going on. It's just going on differently for sure. And, the cancellation of the high school season, the uncertainty of summer baseball certainly has made things interesting. And we're trying to figure out ways to, get the best fit. And the kids out there are doing a real good job of selling themselves, and their coaches are doing a real good job. We're just unable to go watch kids play at this point.
So to build off of that, if you could speak to a player that you would be interested in recruiting, what would you want that specific player to be doing right now during this situation? You mentioned what you want your own guys doing, but what would be your expectation for an incoming freshman this coming year? What you would want them to be doing right now?
Just the same thing that our players are doing. And, Coach Callahan has got the wristband out, we will be ready. And, it's that simple, just make sure that when this opportunity to play gets reinstated, that you're ready. Make sure that you're staying positive, make sure you're getting better. We've had quite a little bit of a span here in which, not only do we have the virus, but we had, the Kobe Bryant situation where, he unfortunately passed. And, when you look at great competitors, what great perspective we have right now where young student athletes can really motivate themselves and emulate the greatest. You have the Michael Jordan stuff going on right now, which doesn't pertain to college baseball, but, talk about competitive nature and something that should give young kids a drive to succeed. That's on. You can read about Kobe Bryant's his track through the NBA, and then just listen to all the coaches around you. The one thing I would say is to just make sure you're not in a hurry to commit. Be more concerned about getting better at this point. There are a lot of kids that are recruiting has changed a little bit, so it is something that everybody's getting used to. It's not last year's cycle, it's this year's cycle. So, make sure you get the right fit and make sure it's a good fit for you and the school. And, it's fairly common for the young student athlete to be a little confused now, to be a little bit, a little bit scared about what the future might be. But stay positive; it'll all straighten itself out, and just get ready to play.
So along those lines, then, Coach, it's kind of interesting. Your first year at Monmouth was 1994. So your first year at Monmouth as the head coach was Michael Jordan's first year playing minor league baseball. So along those lines with The Last Dance, did you happen to watch the documentary? What were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I cannot. I keep watching it. It's tremendous. And as I was growing up, I went to school in North Carolina, and I know I worked with some fellow Tar Heels, and not fellow Tar Heels, but Tar Heels. I did not go to North Carolina, and I followed those guys all through college, and I had friends that went to school in Chapel Hill. So, Michael Jordan was somebody who was on my radar when he was a freshman in college, and this just kind of brings back some happy days for me, and it's fun to see that again where you were such a fan of him when he played, and now you can appreciate it much better. It's great. It's a great series.
Yeah, I'm with you. Did not miss a minute. Was glued to my TV for the last 5 weeks. We go back to the questions. Question coming in. Rob in Tinton Falls, coach, wants to know, going back to that first year all the way through now, what is your favorite coaching moment at Monmouth University?
Favorite coaching moment. I'd hate to slight anything, but I think my favorite coaching moment was probably 1998 when we won the play-in game at Navy. There were only 48 teams that went to the NCAA tournament that year, and I do think that sticks out. And I do remember my daughter was really young then. She was 6, and some of the players were running around the field with her, and she had this plaid hat on, and players were running around. So yeah, that's something that sticks out in my mind. But there's been so many great memories. I mean, just so many great moments, so many important people. I don't want to slight anybody, but that certainly sticks out.
If you also want to look at the laundry list, it is a list of players that have left Monmouth baseball and gone on to play professionally through a variety of ranks, from all the way into the minors, into the major leagues. You have to go to monmouthhawks.com right now and check out the Hawks on the Pros page because, Coach, there's been so many guys that have left Monmouth and gone on to the next level. It really is remarkable. When you got into college coaching, you want to win games, but was that one of your emphases as well, to get guys kind of to that next level? Because if you go on that page, the draft picks, the guys who have signed, I mean, it is a lot of players that have left Monmouth and gone on to play professionally.
Well, when you first start, you think you're bulletproof, you're going to win every game, and all the guys you're going to recruit are going to be really, really good at baseball, and they're all going to play professionally. But, that being said, I think we try to get really balanced people to come into our program and play, good student athletes. We're real proud of all of them, regardless of what they do. They've grown so much when they're there for their 4 years, and they're all really good husbands, fathers, and sons now. So everybody's equally as important, and it's person over player.
All you have to do is stop by the baseball field on a given weekend series and see how many of those alums come back too, and they're in the stands along with fans. And there's another question coming in, and it comes in from former coworker of ours, Coach Joe Compagni, wants to know, and Coach Joe shared a hallway and locker room space with you over the years. Coach Joe, speaking of Major League Baseball, wants to know what your thoughts are if Major League Baseball goes 81 games, no fans, and although we kind of touched on it, what would make kind of the most sense to you with how baseball could resume?
Well, first off, hello, Joe. I miss seeing you. Hope you're well. I don't know the right answer to that. I don't know how it's going to unfold, but, I think that certainly there's a lot of different models out there that I alluded to before. If you're only going to play 81 games, you're probably going to have to, in all fairness, have a different playoff format. There's been talk about, a general facility or a site for multiple games, playing pods like the College World Series. That's something that I don't really, sorry, Joe, but I'm going to leave that up to the people that make those decisions. But whatever is going to happen, it needs to be exciting for the fans because, televised baseball is going to be televised sports is going to be, through the roof. People are starving for it. I watched NASCAR this weekend, just because I wanted to see a live event. And, it was exciting. So, Joe, if you have any ideas, I know that they'll take recommendations. And Bryce Harper put forth a really good model the other day, and there's a lot of people thinking about it. So, whatever they do is better than what's currently happening. And I think the more teams that make the postseason, the merrier.
You snuck in a little NASCAR in between, bouncing back and forth between Fox Sports 1 and Fox Sports 2. Did I get that right?
You did, Eddie. I frequent those channels occasionally.
They have helped us get through some times, Coach. I'll tell you that, especially right now. There's another question coming in, and it kind of ties a few of our points together. It comes in from an alum who was a great player, and Dan Shea is checking in, Coach. And Dan wants to know, and this is a tough question, what is your favorite win over a top 25 team since you've been at
Monmouth? Oh, Danny Shea. Hello, Dan. It's been a long time since we spoke. I think we were talking last night at about 11 o'clock. So good talking to you. Hope you're safe. Dan is a police officer in Wilmington, Delaware. So our hats are off to Dan. Great alum. Played on some really good teams. But I would say out of all the games we had, I would say the win over Virginia, if I'm not mistaken, was the best one. Only because of the way we lost the game the day before to come back and win that. I thought that was the best one. The other one that sticks out is when Ricky Dennis was no-hitting East Carolina and we beat those guys. So those two stick out, right off the top of my head. I know I think we might have had a few. So those two immediately come to mind.
Well, that's why it's tough to have an answer, because you do have a lot to choose from. And much like when you answered about your favorite moment at Monmouth, you had many options for the favorite top 25 win. But now I'm going to ask you one, because now I'm a little curious, and I've gotten to go to one of these. But what was your favorite NCAA regional location? Curious.
Oh, Ole Miss, Eddie, Ole Miss. And I know that that's the one you were at, because there's still Eddie Acapinte banners in Oxford. No, Ole Miss was the best site for just because of the stadium and the atmosphere and the SEC environment. And we were fortunate to be able to go to 4 over the years. I thought we played the best in Tempe in 2007 against Arizona State, and then we almost beat Nebraska the next day and lost a close game. But just the environment in Oxford, Mississippi was incredible. And, the first two we went to at Texas A&M and University of Florida were intense as well. But that environment in Oxford was incredible.
I was selfishly rooting for you to say that, so I'm happy that you and I were on the same page. That was a phenomenal trip, 10,000 people under the lights. It really was remarkable. And, Coach, we have another question coming in, and now we're going to veer away from the world of baseball. This is why I love our Hawk Talk conversations. And Kate wants to know, what would be your recommendations for quarantine television or quarantine books? What's your recommendations to help people kind of pass the time a little bit, Coach?
That's a great question, Kate. Thanks for joining us. Well, I don't know anything about Kate, so I'm just going to answer this generically. Anything to do with sports, number one. Age appropriate, I think Ozark is a great show on Netflix. For the younger group, Penguins of Madagascar are never a bad choice. And then just, good old Seinfeld never gets old.
I was gonna say, Coach, I knew you were a Seinfeld guy. I didn't know that you veered into Ozark as well. So you've been getting pretty adept at kind of, manufacturing the stuff on Netflix. You're getting pretty good at this now?
Oh, man, you got to see me work that remote. I constantly get shut out of the I'm going back and forth. I got to call Leanne or Kelsey down to, get me out of the channel that I'm stuck on. But once I get in, I can navigate it pretty good. I haven't used Netflix up until maybe I've been using Netflix since March 20th, 2020.
So you've become a quick study is what you're saying.
if being having big thumbs and finding the wrong buttons is quick study, yes, that's me.
Along that last question, as far as getting coaches quarantine TV viewing picks, Coach, I'm a little curious. What would be and who would be your coaching inspirations? You know, you've been a Division I head coach for 27 years and an incredibly successful one, players to the majors, conference championships. But who were the people you looked at as your coaching inspirations, maybe when you were a younger coach?
Oh, there's so many, Eddie, and I wouldn't want to leave anybody out, but I think it started with my dad and my grandfather, who were a big influence to everybody in our community growing up. And I was fortunate enough to grow up in Middletown, New Jersey, which is right down the road, and we had great mentors as teachers and coaches. And Richie Beth, who's a longtime legend at Middletown North, was he was the first guy that impacted me the way that we all hope we impact student athletes. Just a father figure, great role model. And then moving on, I had great coaches, moving on. And one person in particular who doesn't really get credit for this would be a gentleman named Billy Best, who was my assistant coach at East Carolina when I played. He kind of took me under his wing because he knew I wanted to coach, and kind of taught me some of the finer points of how to go about teaching something. I remember before a game one day, he took me down the foul line to play catch with me to teach me how to throw a cutter. And I was an outfielder. And the reason he did that was because he thought that if I could throw it, I could teach it, and knew I wanted to coach. So, he's one of the guys that certainly sticks out. And I've learned so much from so many people, and I continue to do so, day in and day out. I'm around great coaches in our building, and I never stop learning. But Richie Beth for sure, and Billy Best at East Carolina were the two that stick out. The other one would be Paul McLaughlin, who was a longtime Hall of Famer at Brookdale, he just knew his players. He knew what buttons to push. He knew when to push them. He knew who to coddle. He knew who he could be tough with, and he was a great role model as well.
No, very interesting, Coach. And I know, that's the great part about having these conversations. Coach and I get to have him at work, but now we can bring it to Zoom, and knowing that he, being a Jersey Shore guy, Coach, I was very curious about that. And while we wind down our conversation, I think it's very interesting that we talk about the overall experience. You mentioned at the beginning of our call what the players are doing at home now and staying active, but every team at Monmouth in the spring semester had above a 3.3 CUME GPA. So how proud are you of your players for the semester they had? Maybe one of the most adverse situations anyone will ever face, for them to be able to go and have kind of lock in and have that kind of academic semester.
Yeah, without a doubt, our kids, our players achieved extremely well, and I saw all the team GPAs earlier. So congratulations to all the student athletes and all the teams. And that's something that we talked about at that initial meeting that day we actually left campus, was that we're going to be challenged tremendously, and this is an opportunity to contribute later on in your life, based on this. And you're going to have to navigate through your academics, and our kids did a great job, especially in an uncomfortable environment. They got out of their comfort zone a little bit with the remote online classes, and they performed extremely well.
And our final question comes in, and we veer away from baseball for just 1 second. Former coworker of ours, Austin Zach, wants to know, Coach, who's your favorite band?
Austin Zach. Although I've seen Austin Zach at several concerts, I will say Motley Crue is my favorite band.
Wow, that was a quick, definitive answer, Coach. That's number one, no questions asked.
That's the truth. I had backstage passes years ago at Madison Square Garden at the Saints of Los Angeles tour for Motley Crue, and it was quite an experience.
Well, I would have loved to have been there too, Coach. And I'll be honest, this was I know this is always a welcome distraction for us, and it was a pleasure to obviously find out that you and the family are well and to have our chat here tonight. Wish you and the family continued health, and we do appreciate you joining us, Coach. Thank you.
Yeah, it was an honor, Eddie. I appreciate it. And, special thanks to all the people that were, sending their questions in. It's nice to know that everybody's rooting for the Hawks, and, we're anxious to get back to work and get back with our players.
As Coach mentioned, we want to thank all the viewers. We also want to thank Gary and Mark and all the crew behind the scenes for helping Coach and I do the easy part, which is show up and talk. And this is our 5th week kicking off of Hawk Talk. We continue the 5th week this Thursday at 7 p.m. when I'll be joined by Monmouth University Vice President and Director of Athletics, Dr. Marilyn McNeil. We'll get the thoughts of the boss in the athletics department this coming Thursday at 7 p.m. For Coach, I'm Eddie. Thank you for watching this episode of Hawk Talk.